Imagine this. You go through 10 or 15 years of back pain. Your professionals that you trust have sent you away with poor posture and muscle strain. It's just part of getting old. You need to move more. You need to lose weight. And then finally, after 10 or 15 years, you get diagnosed with an inflammatory arthritis that fits your symptoms perfectly. Well, unfortunately, in Canada in particular, that is a very common story that I come up against with patients after they've been diagnosed. So follow along with this video as we aim to unpick exactly why that is, and hopefully we can find out what we can do to help improve that diagnostic time. In Canada, it takes roughly, on average, 10 years to diagnose AxSpa. In other countries, it's less. So why is that? It's quite tricky. It's not as easy as we've all just missed this for a long time, but there are definitely things we can improve on, simply because the evidence bears out that that is the quickest and easiest way to improve quality of life of people that have AxSpa. So why? Well, it is tricky because early on in this condition, it smells like your natural, normal, mechanical back pain. Now, mechanical back pain, i.e. your kind of non-inflammatory back pain, does present similarly. So if you get up and move, it will generally ease off quite a bit. Overnight, you can get little periods of pain. Inactivity makes it worse. So it's very tricky. The differences, though, are quite subtle, but often this is what I see with patients, and there are so many little signs along the way that someone should have been aware of and picked up. The main difference of AS, or inflammatory pain, compared to our mechanical pain is that when you wake up in the morning, you are unbelievably stiff. And that stiffness and pain eases off to a point within about 30 minutes to an hour, hour and a half. When you stand still, your pain gets worse. That is a very different pattern normally than our mechanical back pain. When you rest, your pain does decrease, but then ongoing again, you repeat that stiffness in the same areas. And finally, another one with our kind of pain presentation that's different is if you wake up in the middle of the night with pain. Now again, if you have chronic mechanical back pain and you wake up in the middle of the night, that doesn't mean that you have AS. It is a broader diagnostic condition and an umbrella of things that may lead us to them. But frankly, do question, have a think, oh crikey, this has been going on 10, 15 years. That is something that hopefully we can increase awareness and improve that diagnostic time. This is also hard to pick up in primary care, like your GP practice, because these symptoms do come and go. You will go through periods where you feel fantastic, where you feel like you're in a pretty good place. And other times you'll be in a flare-up. And again, those times are when hopefully with some education for our healthcare staff that we can pick up these things. It's all about the whole picture of the person, not just the one bit of back pain that we're focusing on. So the tricky thing is this comes in waves. Also, generally you'll start picking this up between 25 years old to 30, 35 years old. So it doesn't just come out of the blue. It's not as obvious also as other inflammatory conditions, i.e. if you've got rheumatoid arthritis and your knuckles are swelling, pretty obvious to see what's going on. Blood tests will sometimes not pick this up. Sometimes your CRP is not high even though you are flaring up. So again, from a kind of symptom perspective, it's not the easiest thing to pick up in primary care. Another part of early diagnosis is knowing the extra articular features of this condition. So other factors that play a big role, well, number one is genetics. So if you have a son, a daughter who is presenting with some of these pain issues that you have, it might not be the worst thing to go and get them screened for AS. Also, ask your parents, ask your grandparents, has there anywhere been in a family that has had an inflammatory condition? Or, back in the day, this wasn't really a thing. This wasn't picked up. There weren't medications specifically for this. So you might have had a great gran who was bent over and really stiff that they just cracked on because that's what they did back in the day. They didn't have the tools to diagnose this. So definitely ask your family, because there's a huge familiar link with this. Has anybody had this condition or symptoms like this? Furthermore, thinking about your family, if there's psoriasis, if there's other inflammation like inflammatory bowel disease, that can also trigger this if you've the genetic makeup for it. Then also it's learning about, as there's a whole video on this, the extra articular symptoms of AxSpa. So if you have a few of this stiffness in the morning, improves with rest, hurts overnight, can wake you up, and you also have some pain in your sternum, or you have a bit of eye inflammation, or you do have some random finger pain and swelling, that is a key sign that you are inflamed. So as we said before, the volume dial is cranked up on your immune response. And with AxSpa, which is generally the AS part, is a little bit more in our central spine. That's where the areas of inflammation are. You can throw off other areas that are inflamed. Commonly, if your finger swells up massively, it's quite obvious, right? But a lot of people will have tendinitis or enthesitis, we call it, but for want of a better word, the tendon hurts. Very often it can be bilateral, which is very weird. In my career, I've come up with 5 or 6 patients that actually have both patella tendons or both Achilles tendons that flare up at the same time. Super rare. So again, it's building this clinical picture of thinking, right, hold on, I have a few of these back symptoms, and actually, yeah, I do have some dry skin somewhere, or looks like psoriasis, or I do have bilateral Achilles pain. That is enough for you to go to your doctor and say, hey, I really do think we should be thinking about something inflammatory. There's a fantastic tool online that I give to doctors, I give to anyone that I teach about this, called ScreenDem, and I'll leave it in the link in the description below. It's a fantastic tool by Paul Kerwin that is just a quick mnemonic to double check if there's anything extra going on with our body, plus the back pain, that might lead to a diagnosis. And it's pretty accurate, it's pretty cool. Thank you, Paul. So the whole thing, great. We can diagnose people a bit earlier. What is the big difference? What's the reason? Well, a ton of research shows that by diagnosing people early, we can get them on their medication early, which obviously will reduce our disease activity. Long term, that can then reduce, if we are going to fuse, that can reduce the likelihood of that, or at least push it way down the line. Furthermore, the thing that actually matters, your quality of life. If you are in pain, if you have been dismissed for years upon years upon years upon years, how does that make you feel? I can feel people through the screen saying, crikey, that is what I had. Everyone thought I was going mad. Then I had this, then I had my drugs, and I feel like me again. I'm sorry that happened. There are actually good reasons why this isn't picked up, but unfortunately there's times in this story of diagnosis for you when it really should have been picked up. And hopefully, not being snotty about it, this affects roughly 1% of the population in Canada. Okay, it's 500,000 people, so it's quite a lot, but it's not like rheumatoid arthritis, it's not as prevalent. Hopefully with good education and actually giving you guys the tools to think, oh, this might be something we should check out, we can improve that. Diagnostic time, improve your quality of life earlier, get you back working, get you back exercising, take the burden of health off of you so that we can actually aim to improve your life overall. So to wrap up, early diagnosis is key in improving life for AxSpa patients. If you are roughly under 45, you have pain that improves with rest, that is worse in the morning and improves with movement, that can wake you up on standing still or in the middle of the night, then it's definitely worth a chat to your doctor. Have they considered something inflammatory? Furthermore, if you have the extra articular features, heel pain, eyes, nails, blah, 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 that would also be good to discuss and say, hey, have we thought of this? Now, what I don't want people to do, I get a lot of angry doctors who email me and say, crikey, everybody thinks they've got blinking AxSpa right now. You know, just because you have some of these symptoms doesn't mean you have the condition. But I think it's good to be wise and have the ammunition to just discuss it. All it takes, a blood test, an MRI, an X-ray maybe, that can be a quick and dirty way of ruling it in or out. And then hopefully, if we're in, all the resources we put together here, your rheumatologist, we can start then improving your pain and getting you back to what normal looks like.